Tonight is really a key milestone for the Sealy School, which the town has been talking about, trying to figure out what to do with for a very long period of time. And tonight is the unveiling of a concept for the property. What we're really looking to do is redevelop this property over the course of the next couple of years. And tonight, we're unveiling the concept of what is being proposed here and introducing the preferred development team that we, the town, have been working with for a number of months as we've gone through an extensive process. One of the things that's really key anytime we go to develop a property is finding the right development team and partners for the town is part of this. So the town had gone out and hired Goldman, a very reputable development and real estate firm, to help us do some marketing and outreach on the property. We put out an RFP. We received proposals from some great development firms. And through an extensive interview process, we have been working with DonMar here on a concept design for the property. Right now, the Sealy School, I think a lot of folks know, does not contribute to our town's tax base, and it doesn't offer a lot of other beneficial uses to the town, and that's something we're looking to change. Today, this project is actually a liability to the town and the state that it's in, and it costs a lot of money to demolish buildings like this. This project, as proposed, is going to be offering housing to the 80% of the people that work here that don't live here. And we're hoping that those commuters, as they move here, will then have other benefits to the town in contributing to our local economy. Our developer that we've been working with, I'll introduce them and their team in just a moment. They're really eager to advance this project in a timely manner. And again, tonight is to just introduce a concept. This is not a planning and zoning commission meeting. This is not a public hearing. This is us trying to begin the process of outreaching to the town and the neighborhood to talk about some of the concepts of what's being proposed to this site. So with that, I'm going to introduce.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Is it okay if I walk around? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Hurst. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Cohen & Wolfe. We have offices in Orange, Bridgeport, Westport, and Danbury, Connecticut. And I am the lawyer for DonMar Development and the Joya family. We are here tonight. I just wanted to, before I introduce the president of DonMar Development, I want to just make a point of thanking a lot of town and city officials that have worked very hard to get us to this point. Your planning department has been nothing short of outstanding. The independent people that have been brought on board to facilitate this process. You know, I have to also thank members of the legislative delegation that have taken an interest in this, Senator Summers and others, that really want to see something positive happen on this site. And I have to tell you that when I come up here, I'm reminded of the tutorial that I got 2 years ago about the difference between the town of Groton and the city of Groton and the different districts. It took about 30 minutes to explain it to me, but I know it well, and I've spent a lot of time up here. But I just want to tell you a little bit about the man I'm going to introduce and the company that he represents. Mario DeGioia is here tonight. He is the president of DonMar Development Corporation. His son, Michael DeGioia, is the vice president. His son, Anthony DeGioia, is the project executive. And just to underscore how this is a family business that takes pride in its work, they're also joined tonight by Mario's daughter, Angela, and his wife, Donna. All came up tonight for this presentation. DonMar Development has been in business for 32 years. They have a stellar and outstanding reputation throughout the state. They have never had in 32 years an adverse legal action taken against them for the quality of their workmanship or the product they deliver. And I can tell you, as somebody who represents a lot of contractors and developers throughout the state, I don't get to say that too often, that they have such an outstanding track record and reputation. And they're the ideal team to help you deliver this project, because one of the things that we know about southeastern Connecticut with Electric Boat and Pfizer is that southeastern Connecticut is really becoming an economic engine for the rest of the state of Connecticut. EB is critical to Connecticut's economy, and this area of the state is going to be vital to an economic recovery for the state. And that's why this project's important, and it's important that the right team be in place to deliver this project. And I can tell you without hesitation that this is the team that's going to deliver you a very good project that you're going to be very proud of. And as indicated by your planning staff from the onset of his comments, we are here tonight to give you a conceptual of what is envisioned. This will go through proper permitting and land use approvals at the local level. We intend to take that process very seriously. We intend to take your input very seriously tonight, and we intend to be able and willing partners with the town and city of Groton to make sure that we deliver a quality project for you. So with that, it's my honor to introduce my client, the president of DonMar Development Corporation, Mario Joya.
Thank you, Tim. So again, good evening. As you know, my name is Mario Joya, and I am the CEO and the president of DonMar Development Corporation. The first thing I would like to reiterate is that this is not a planning and zoning meeting tonight, or even a public hearing. This is only a public unveiling at this point. Our team is here to unveil the conceptual plans for the potential development at the Sealy School site. The plans our engineer and architects will show you are still in the early stages of development and will without a doubt change as the design process progresses. Some of you have expressed frustrations for lack of public outreach, when in reality this meeting is the first step of public outreach. And these plans are the starting point for what we wish to develop. With that said, I am not here tonight to sell you a story or to tell you that I am going to solve the Groton housing issues. What I will tell you is that DonMar is a family-owned business. We are not a multinational firm who is looking to come in here, slap together a few buildings, flip it, and run. We are here to develop a town-owned parcel and put it back on the grand list with significant taxable improvements. The economic prospects of your town are bright. With EB, Pfizer expanding, there is a huge crunch on housing. Nearly half of those employed, actually it's 80%, I just learned, do not live here. The majority of the town housing stock was built pre-1939. And from 1970 to 79, studies after studies have shown that this type of housing does not meet the need of shifting demographics of the workforce. The project we are presenting tonight is designed to meet the needs of the workforce by providing them with quality, amenity-rich housing. This project will not only attract the millennials age group, it's going to attract empty nesters and older professionals who do not want to maintain a house and who are looking for a sense of community. We want to keep the working force in Groton here to live. We want them to spend their disposable income at local businesses. We want them to pay property taxes to the town of Groton. And when they are ready to buy a house to start a family, we want them to purchase your homes. I would like to address a few concerns that we have heard thus far. The first being school enrollment. The millennials generation is not having children and forming households at the same rate as previous generations. The National Association of Home Builders has done many studies in this subject. Unlike the past, housing has little to no effect on school enrollment. In fact, statewide, there is more housing than at any other time in the past. Yet school enrollment continues to fall. Groton, like most of Connecticut, has experienced a drastic decline in school enrollment. For Groton, that number exceeds 20% over the last 2 decades. The latest research published by the National Association of Home Builders shows that multifamily housing, like the project we are proposing here, attracts 0.11 school-age students per unit, an increase that is negligible when you consider that this is a nationwide study. which highlights that number as even lower in the northeastern region of our country. The second is the demolition of the existing school building. We have done an initial environmental survey of the site to catalog possible contaminants. Before any demolition is done, there will be a bulk sampling of materials in the building so that we can develop and administer an abatement plan. The building will not be demolished until the state DEP gives it a clean bill of health to ensure that contaminants have been properly removed and disposed of. Lastly, and before I introduce my architect and engineer, I would like to give you a background on where the name Triton Square came from and how we plan to preserve the storied history of William Seeley. William Seeley was born in 1992, and in 1940, when he was 18 years of age, he enlisted in the Navy and was stationed on the USS Arizona. Just 14 months later, on December 7th, 1941, he was killed in the attack of Pearl Harbor and entombed in the sunken USS Arizona. He was the first Groton resident to give his life in the war, and in 1954, the William Seeley School was built in his honor. Within this school, there are 2 plaques dedicated to William Seeley. As part of our proposal, we will be removing those plaques for preservation. At the entrance of the site, we will build a monument in the honor of William Seeley and those who have lost their lives in the attack on Pearl Harbor. Although the school will be gone, the memory of William Seeley will live on. The project is named after USS Triton, a revolutionary and groundbreaking submarine that was built right here in Groton. The Triton was laid down in 1956, and when it was launched in 1958, it was the largest, most powerful, and most expensive submarine ever built. It was a true statement of the post-war prowess of the U.S. Navy and the country's manufacturing, engineering, and economic dominance. Powered by 2 twin nuclear reactors, it was the first submarine to circumnavigate the globes submerged, a feat the New York Times describes as a feat which the United States Navy can rank as one of its bright victories in man's ultimate conquest of the seas. With that said, I'd like to introduce to you Ray Sullivan of the Sullivan Architectural Group tonight, and also Tom Daly of the Milona McBroom. Ray and Tom represent the best of the best when it comes to architecture and civil engineering. They have extensive experience and are renowned in their field. I'm going to pass this off now to Ray, and he will give you a rundown of the buildings and amenities and some aspects of the site.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ray Sullivan of the Sullivan Architectural Group. We're located at 155 Broad Street in Milford. We have had the luxury of probably designing 3,000 to 4,000 units. So we've seen a lot of the trends over the years. And what I wanted to do was just conceptually introduce the image behind the site plan that you see. And what we really wanted to do was we wanted to create a connected residential life experience building with both very active and connected interior amenity space and exterior amenity space. So, what does that mean? So what we have here is we've got 3 buildings, but they're all connected. So you see dotted lines for bridges. So it's open on the ground floor, so you can walk underneath it. But the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors, have bridge connections so that somebody could want to go down to the cafe Saturday morning, could be in their slippers, can go down the hallway from the far end of the building, make their way down to the amenity area, and never have to leave the building. One of the reasons for that is that the amenity areas in these multifamily buildings today tend to be more high-end. You create your own little community, within the complex. and it creates a tremendous amount of interaction. So, I'll touch upon that in a slide coming up. The site plan here represents 280 units. It's in 3 buildings, that are all connected. We want to stress that they're high quality, high end units. So there'll be high quality kitchens, baths, hallways, and quite an extensive array of amenity spaces. The unit mix is still a little bit open. There is a market study about to be commenced. Generally the higher percentage of these units are 1-bedrooms. There's a small percentage of studios, which are very attractive to the young professional, and the remainder are 2s. But that is still a little bit in flux. As far as the site plan is concerned, we studied many site plans, different orientations, and we're not done yet. So this is really just a concept. But one thing we wanted to do was we wanted to take that courtyard and we wanted it to face south so that we could flood it with light. So we were able to achieve that, and we want to disperse the parking for multiple reasons. It's 280 units. The building spreads out. We didn't want the residents to have to walk too far from parking space to their unit, and back. And so that, we've got larger parking areas here. We've got a long row, and then a larger parking area down below, which is really a story below. So if you're up in that courtyard, and we'll illustrate that with an image coming up, you're looking up over that parking area. And we wanted to minimize the number of parking spaces that are actually near the single-family houses here. So that's got the kind of shortest depth of parking. The headlights don't face the adjoining houses, and the adjoining houses are shielded with garages. So can we go to the next slide? So the amenity area. So you get these beautiful units. They're well appointed on the inside. But the greater sense is that we create a sense of an interactive community within the project. And so what happens is, we've got a main lounge that has multiple seating areas with fireplaces and TVs. Above that we have a game area and a kitchen and a cafe. So quite often you'll see people come down, they're making coffee, they're working on their laptops. Again, it's in the evening, it's on the weekends. They might be shooting pool, playing multiple sports, but it's interactive. All the same residents, living and interacting together. We've got a large fitness center, within the building here. Directly across, we have an exercise studio, whether it's yoga or whatever other exercise event wants to take place. We have a media music room, so we can show movies, or what's very popular. So that room is a little bit more soundproof. What's very popular today, is a lot of people play in bands or play instruments. It's nice for them. Again, there's 280 units here. Nice for them to get together and interact in a space like that. We have a common work area, so it's not WeWork, but it's really if somebody's working from home on a Friday, they got a workstation to go down to. They've got some rooms they can that will accommodate small meetings. People working together. So again, it's that community interaction with everybody using this main amenity area. We've got a multi-purpose room, and that can be for card games, meeting rooms, lectures, so on and so forth. And we have the dog spa. So really the pet experience is very important to the residents, and there are a lot of people who are very passionate about their pets, and we like to accommodate that. So people can use that facility to wash their dog, groom their dog. There's an outdoor dog park, as well, but it's really part of the experience. So a couple of small points on the site plan. The Sealy monuments, will take place in a location, directly off the main entrance, where we'll have a stone wall, we'll have a series of flags, and the monuments will be, refurbished, and placed in that area, right at the prime entrance to the facility. It's a little hard to see; it's a little bit light, but we have this this dotted line here, which goes off in this up direction, that is potentially in the future a new access directly down from the commercial area off the adjacent property, as opposed to the existing current boulevard. And if it warrants, if Electric Boat, if Pfizer, if any of the other main employers in the area, want to provide shuttle buses, just small ones. We wanted to, provide an area where, all the residents, can come undercover, walk to this point, and come out and catch a shuttle bus. So again, a lot of this is still conceptual, but we're trying to think, in advance of all those things that are really going to make this a long-standing interactive community. The more the community interacts, within these facilities, the happier they tend to be, the longer they tend to stay, and it becomes a stronger asset within the community. So aesthetically, we're looking north here, so we're overlooking the main exterior courtyard, which again faces south. So in this area, we've got a pool. We've got grilling stations. We've got outdoor areas that are for sunning. We've got outdoor areas, with trellises and covering for, being able to sit in the shade. We have, it's a little hard to see up in this area. Generally, off a trellis or some kind of landscape wall, and off a lawn area, an active feature right now is a movie wall. And if you've got a lawn to show in a movie on a Friday night, and you'd be surprised, what the attendance is. So we've got a good mixture there between hard surface and soft surface, and what happens is half the units are actually facing this courtyard. So again, we've got a lot of interaction between the residents. This is a shot, which is one of the main entryways. If you came up off of Walker Hill and entered the facility, aesthetically, we studied various different styles. We looked at these buildings as if they were, what if they wanted to look colonial with a pitched roof? Groton's got a historic seaport nature. What if it had a shingle style roof? We looked at, what if it was an old mill and it had more brick to it? And then we started to look at the contemporary solutions. And I think I would call this a soft contemporary versus a stark contemporary. Sometimes the stark contemporary solutions kind of get outdated very quickly. I'm calling this a soft contemporary because we're using all the traditional materials. We're using horizontal siding, we're using trim boards, we're using heavy fascias, we're using a divided light window. We're using all the components that you see, within a traditional style, but we've put it together in a more contemporary composition. And we've applied a flat roof to it. One thing the flat roof does, we will have a rooftop garden up on the roof, and we want to fly a balloon and see what that view is going to be like, and that's a great asset to the community. The other thing it does is actually lowers the height of the building. So the uppermost ceiling, whether it's a pitched roof or not, would be at the exact same elevation. So if we put a pitched roof on it, up to the ridge of that pitch roof could be 16 to 18 feet higher than what we see here. So we think we've got a good aesthetic solution. We've got a solution that we think the market is looking for, and we actually have a lower profile solution. That is just another picture of the courtyard. So now we're facing south. The other one was north. You can see off in the distance that parking area. It's actually down a full story. And so when we first come in, the Sealy Monument will be here. It's just a concept sketch, but we do want to put it in the most prominent position possible on the site. And there you see the building beyond. So conceptually, that's a brief overview. And now I'd like to, is Tom? Oh, there. I'd like to turn over to Tom Daly.
Thank you, Ray. Correct. So for the record, I'm Tom Daly. I'm a civil engineer. We've been working with the DonMar Corporation for probably, it's got to be 25, 30 years. I personally have been working with this team. In addition to that, we've been working with Ray. We've done countless projects, and basically this has been the sweet spot we've been working with Ray on, is the multifamily residential, and Ray's just been a pleasure to work with over the years. So we're excited to be part of this job. We're actually currently working for the town right now. I'm the civil engineer on both Cutler and the West Side School, and then my other team members are working on the other school there. So I think we have a good rapport with town staff. We understand how they like to work, and we like to think that we're responsive to the concerns as they come up. So we do know the landscape of this community, and we're excited to actually continue to our work here, even though the school work continues on. But you all know the site. When we start looking at these particular sites, we really are bringing in a lot of context into that original concept. This is a redevelopment site, which is really exciting. I actually prefer to be working on redevelopment sites than just going into a wooded site where no development has ever occurred. There's always that opportunity to take basically a outdated site, a site that's really in the decline, and turn it into something really exciting. So, you know, this is the type of stuff I really enjoy doing. You know the site. The school currently has access off the Sealy School Drive. This building is really centrally located. And then the topography, and it's really a flat plateau up at that upper part. But as it goes behind the school, the topo really starts to roll down the hill to the point where that the end of the property here, these are all wetlands on there. So when we start laying out the building, and I take no credit for the overall concept as an individual, it's really been developed through a collaborative approach. Ray's a big part of that. I'd say as architects go, Ray is probably one of the best site planners we've worked with. So part of that is trying to fit this site. So we do know the constraints. As part of our work, we will be doing a very detailed topographic and property survey, so we'll have really good base mapping once we did there. Next slide. So as we walk into the site, what are the first things we're starting to look at? So the first thing we started to look at was access, and the intent was here is a new access point, not sending the traffic through the existing Sealy School Drive, but get onto Walker Hill Road where there's better traffic movement. We think there is an opportunity there to create a really attractive boulevard drive, tree-lined on two sides. We really want to create a sense of place, but also the boulevard drive doesn't make it look like this huge commercial driveway coming off the property. It really breaks it down. So we're looking at a driveway, conceptually a driveway system that comes in and sweeps around. Ray talked a little about what's going on here. One of the benefits of Ray's building is it's really broken down the mass of the building. So what we took advantage of that is by wrapping the parking around the building. We initially looked at some concepts where it was just a large sea of parking in one location, but that's one, it's not great for the residents because that's a long way to walk. Two, just a big sea of parking lot is not an attractive approach. So by using Ray's architecture and the topography, we're able to kind of break those parking lots into a smaller massing. We're also conceptually looking at garages here, and one of the reasons the garages are flanked on this side is those garages actually can be serving as a buffer. They'll be residential in character, they'll only be one story with a peaked roof. So really from a visual buffer, there was an opportunity to really use those garages as a buffer. Then as we wrap the parking lot around, we're also looking at a walking trail around the entire property. We have a dog park in there, as Ray talked. That's becoming a really popular amenity. But we also have this amenity space really flanked within the building. It'll be somewhat of an alcove there, or really an area tucked in behind it. But then the rear portion of the property is really intended to remain as is. We'll probably have a stormwater basin somewhere in here, but then really the rear of the property will remain as the open space and just wooded area. As part of, everybody said, this is really our first conceptual pass at this. We have a long haul to go. We'll have to go to wetlands, we'll have to go to planning and zoning, As part of that application, we will be providing a detailed traffic study, and that will require us to do traffic counts on the road on there, and then populate what the traffic would be from this potential use. We actually we take those traffic counts for the potential use out of a published document that the DOT approves. So we'll be taking that information, and we'll have to present to this commission or the commissions about the traffic operations here. And frankly, if our numbers show that there needs to be off-site improvements, some widening here, left turn lanes, maybe we'll have to look at these intersections. That'll be part of our application where our traffic study takes a look at. We don't just look at the driveway, we'll actually be looking at some intersections beyond that. And usually your police department and your legal traffic authority are a pretty big part of that back and forth. We'll also do a very detailed drainage study to make sure that we show that we're not increasing the amount of runoff site. Luckily on a redevelopment site, that's a little bit easier. But we would like you to think about is that was a site designed with not current drainage standards. Really, there's no water quality. Probably all the pavement just shoots in the back and goes right to the wetlands. We'll take this opportunity to actually bring this site up to the new DEP standards, so we're polishing that stormwater. But traditionally, we're looking that naturally that water all goes to the back, ultimately moves to there, so we'll be mimicking that. But we'll also take a look at all the property lines and make sure there's, down to the micro, that there's no neighbors are being impacted in terms of overall drainage. But as we said, we have a long haul. We're going to get input from you all. We're going to input from your town staff on many levels. And then, but it'll continue to evolve. But this is kind of, we have an obligation to put something up on that. And I will say is, this is thoughtful. It's a thoughtful concept to respect the site. So we think we're off to a good start. So I think you all can at least take a look at it and feel that, it's a good starting point and you can react to that. You'll definitely see refinements as we get into the details, but as you can see, we're really taking care of that upper plateau. With that, I'm going to ask John to come up to speak.
Thank you very much. So I'm just going to introduce Mike Goldman from Goldman, York. He was going to make a few comments about kind of the housing market and some of the demands that we're seeing in the region.
Thank you, John. And glad to be here. Welcome to everyone tonight. As John said, my name is Mike Goldman. I'm a principal with a firm by the name of Goldman in York. We're real estate advisors, commercial real estate advisors based out of East Hartford, Connecticut. I've been in the business my entire life, over about 60 million square feet of development and about $5 billion in development. Worked on a lot of different projects, and one thing I would like to start off saying is I think the town has assembled a great, very experienced and very skilled team, and that's one of the first things that we look for. As John mentioned earlier, our role here is as an advisor to the town on the questions of real estate development and sort of how it dovetails in with the economic impact of a given project. Our clients include not just municipalities, but we also do a lot of work for state agencies and banks and colleges and universities. And all around these kinds of questions, how does a given project fit into the existing market? Is it responding to what we know about socioeconomic trends and how people live their lives today? And perhaps more importantly, is it going to continue to be responsive to the changes that we see in the market as the market unfolds? When we look at a team like this, we assume people like Ray Sullivan and Tom Daly. They're both from very good firms, very talented people, very talented in their areas of discipline. Our area of discipline is sort of testing everything against economic reality. After all, our view is that you have to start from the basis of, can this be built? What are the rents that it can be achieved in a market, or if it's a project to be sold, what are the sales prices, and how do those line up against the costs of building a given project? And at the end of the day, it's capital investment. Someone needs to put up the debt. Someone needs to put up the equity. Is the project going to meet the kind of financial tests that are out there in the market? So we sort of start off the process assuming there will be good architects and good engineers to deal with those issues. Our issue is, does it make financial sense? And at the end of the day, whether it makes financial sense is a question of whether it's meeting the market demand that's out there. So just a couple of points that I want to make. Ray, in his comments earlier, said the housing stock here in Groton is older, and that's very true. You know, you're in good company. We see that in most communities around Connecticut. There was sort of a pause in housing development for a number of decades. We're now seeing new housing, and especially in the multifamily rental residential segment, being built in the last few years. And the reason that activity has started is back to what I was saying earlier about being responsive to the market trends, the socioeconomic changes that are creating different kinds of demands. So we look at a project in any market, whether it's this one or any other, whether or not it's doing a good job of filling that gap that occurs when the market is a little older in this case, and people are moving into the community and looking for new housing that meets the tests of the way that they want to live today. So a couple of things I'd tell you about that. One is that the units generally that we're seeing in all the projects, and we've probably done in the last 6 months 18 of these kinds of assignments, looking at this kind of housing. What we're seeing across the board is that all of the units tend to be smaller. We're seeing a lot of studio apartments. They're very popular, one-bedroom apartments. We hardly ever see any 2s and 3s. They're very low percentages. And I know the team is sort of still looking at that ratio, but that's very common. We're seeing that. The other thing that, again, picking up on some of the things Ray commented about, that these projects tended to be their own little micro-community. People want to be able to get out of their apartment. They're not going to stay in their apartment all day. They want to get out of their apartment and go downstairs to some of the amenities. And you saw this long list of amenities. That's a very common list. And the projects that have been very successful, that have been built in the last 4 or 5 years that we've seen, all have those kinds of amenities. So people want to get out of their apartment and go downstairs and partake of the amenities in their community. The days of a bunch of little box apartments and a laundry room downstairs, nobody's building those projects anymore. That's not the way apartment communities get built. This is the very typical way that things get built. And again, why do they get built that way? It's because they appeal to that customer who wants to move into a rental apartment for a number of reasons. Millennials have been mentioned. The double income, no kids, that's a millennial often. They love this kind of housing. At the other end of the age spectrum, we see a lot of empty nesters as well. And we've worked on projects. You can see Heirloom Flats in Bloomfield, the Tannery in Glastonbury, Dorchester in Simsbury, Corsair in New Haven. Any of these projects, if you were out in those areas and you want to walk through them, you'll see what I mean. They're very active. People are down on the main floor. They're taking advantage of the amenities. And you may be talking to someone in their 70s and you'll say, how do you like living here? You know, it seems like there's a lot of young people. And they'll say, oh yeah, it's terrific. That's exactly why I like living here. And the younger age people will say the same thing. They'll say it's great. You know, it's a very diverse community, all age groups, all kinds of people. And it's been a wonderful place to live, lots of amenities and a great sense of community. So I think what's been presented here tonight, as it's been described, is conceptual, but they're absolutely on the right track. This is the way all new successful projects are being designed and being built. And I can tell you from all the projects we've worked on, they're leasing up and they're very successful. So I'll turn it back to John.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. So in closing, it should be, again, just we can't stress enough that tonight is the first public step in this process. Many times we, the town, don't get involved this early in the development process. We don't get involved until an application is submitted to our department for approval to go to the land use, our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Inland Wetlands Commission. But in this instance, the town has been actively looking for a development partner for the property, and this is our preferred partner. Very early in the process. There's still a lot more work that needs to be done. The town council has required steps that they need to take in order for this project to advance. Once an agreement is approved between the town council and the developer, then the developer plans on doing much more additional public outreach. In addition, they need to complete their due diligence on the property, working with their engineer, their architects to refine and design even more the plans that they've presented to us tonight. In addition, then they have to prepare their applications before the Land Use Commission, before our Planning and Zoning Commission, our Inland Wetlands Commission. These steps take a lot of time and take a significant investment of money on their part. So again, we have a lot of time before we actually see an application for this project, and we expect a fair bit more of public outreach. Tonight is step number 1 in that process. That concludes our presentation. We want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out. If people have questions, we, staff from the town, the development team, are going to just be kind of meandering around the room. There's boards up here. We encourage you to come up, take a look at the boards, come ask some questions, get to know the development team so that we can hear from you about what your concerns are. So again, thank you very much. Good night, and we encourage you to come on up and take a look at the boards, and appreciate all your help. Thank you.